The next thing we're going to talk about is Unity Tactical's Axon button. So most people are used to seeing these mounts that are out on the market. These are done by Unity Tactical. This is their fast mount. You have their magnifier, so if you need to make a longer shot, then you have this ability to utilize it or also get it out of your way really quickly. There's a quick release on the other side, which allows you to just keep the gun as slick as possible, and then utilizing this height mount allow you to shoot passively. What we're going to focus on is this button right here. They do make some other styles of buttons, but we're going to focus on the Axon button and talk about some of the attributes that this button offers. Right away, you can see that the buttons are not the same, meaning this is my laser button right here, and then this is my white light button right here. So the first thing is, if you were to be moving at night under stress, making sure that that end user knows the difference between, hey, I don't have two flat pads and I might screw one up and actually white light and torch my surrounding area and give away my position. So the goal, one of the goals is to make sure that the end user knows the difference really quickly under stress. And it is really simple, and there's not a lot of a rail room, as you can see that this thing really takes up, okay? We're going to break down a couple other things about this button that I think are going to be really interesting as well. So we'll break down the functions of the pads. This particular pad right here, just like normal, if you fire this laser off, you can press and let go, and then of course you can double press it and it will stay on. For those, I mostly use that when I zero, just to leave it on as I'm shooting to keep it consistent, because I don't feel like holding my thumb here the whole entire time. That's about the only time I really use it. Now, one of the features with the white light button, be it right here, is that not only is it a quick momentary right now, so it'll do a quick momentary, but if you push it in and let it go, it will stay on constant on, which I really like that feature. I like actually having both. If I can only get one, then I like momentary better. However, to be able to sit there and turn that thing on real quick, it's very intuitive, it's very easy to use. What we're going to talk about next, though, is how this interfaces with, say, the NGAL or the D-Ball A3, because it allows the user to do something that I think is pretty beneficial, especially when it comes to the civilian side of the house and law enforcement side of the house, where the combination of running a laser and white light can be a benefit, I think. So let's talk about a couple things. Law enforcement. So law enforcement in certain areas, like I can tell you out here with lots of property, if you were to be tasked with serving a warrant, let's just say it's a no-knock warrant, you're going to hit and go really quickly due to the nature of maybe the crimes the guy's committed in the past. If you had the technology to cruise in on night vision, the benefit of that particular scenario would be you can get guys in close, and then at the last second when they go to hit the door, they go off night vision and they start utilizing white light. And the reason why that happens in law enforcement is because as soon as a door gets hit, you have to start announcing yourselves. Police department, sheriff's department, all that stuff. So most guys are going to be on white light at that point. Now, in tight places like meth trailers, apartments, small houses, it's not the same style of CQB like you do in a school or a larger facility. What I mean by that is sometimes you have to put the gun into some really weird places, either choking it up or it's coming up over your shoulder as you're driving into the room. And if that's the case, then having the ability to not only be running white light, but a laser as well, so that you can confidently shoot and engage, I think is a huge plus. Meaning, I do not have to wait to cheek the gun to get a good dot. Now, I know some of you are of the mindset of, hey, I can shoot off my flashlight, cant the gun, and run it and be pretty damn successful. And I don't disagree with that. But if you did have to make a critical shot, I mean, the laser's there to aid us. It's not there to hurt us. The laser's there to aid us. Now, let's talk about that for a minute in regards to being able to utilize that laser. So that would mean that law enforcement patrols up on night vision. Then technically, under normal circumstances with different styles of lasers and different buttons that are out on the market, you would then have to switch your laser from IR because you were worried about maybe you get engaged while you're out in the open. So now you come up to the door, you switch back to, let's just say a visible laser at this point. And then of course, with some of the systems that are out on the market, I'm trying to run both the pads at the exact same time. And that just becomes problematic. So what I will say is with the NGAL, and the reason why I'm bringing the NGAL up, I understand this is a military law enforcement restricted laser, but very soon, I believe it's going to be open to the public, which means that you're going to be able to utilize this laser and this button in the same way that I'm kind of discussing it right now. So as we start to break that down, we're going to break down something unique where I don't have to come up to the door, go from IR, switch all the way back down to visible laser, and then have to work two buttons in conjunction with one another. And that's what we're going to talk about. With the NGAL and with the D-ball A3, especially on the A3, we can maneuver it over. There's two plugs back there. What this allows the user to do is I can actually be flipped into IR, patrolling up to a location. If I need to, I would hit my laser button to be able to shoot if I deem that that was the best way instead of shooting passively. However, when I get to the door, I don't have to move this from IR. I can just hit this fire button right here. And what it will do is it will, while I'm in IR mode, it will activate the laser and light. I know you can't really see it at the exact same time, okay? Which means that I don't have to keep track of things. I come up with IR. As soon as I go internal and start announcing myself, if that's what you were doing, if that's the style that you were doing, then you would immediately be able to just move your thumb from the IR laser, meaning the pad right here, right to here, and it gives me white light and a visible laser. Now, I think that is a major benefit, especially for law enforcement. Are they going to use it all the time? No. One thing that I like is that with this override, you don't have to think about it. If you immediately go to your white light, I have an aiming device. It doesn't matter that I'm on IR. Now, for military primarily is just going to be in the darkness running IR most of the time, sneaking in and out of places. They don't have to worry about saying sheriff's department or police department, okay? Civilians, well, I don't know what your application is, and you may not have to either, so, this function may not be that big of a deal to you. I really like it to be able to, if I go internal and I do have to use white light, I like the fact that I've got a laser designator there. Now, a couple words of caution. What happens with some of the other systems, if you're not careful, what it will do when you hit this particular button on some of the other lasers that are out on the market, it will leave the IR on, in which case you won't see it if you're not on nods because you're running white light, which means you run into some liabilities. That liability being as you torch somebody, even though you're on IR mode, now you go to torch them with your white light. This laser is slave to this, which means you are IR lasering somebody, and that can be a huge liability. So we're talking about, this is already a restricted device from, if I believe the FDA regulates these things. So you could find yourself in quite a pickle as a law enforcement officer because it can start dealing with use of force issues, specifically when we talk about the eyes, right? So that's where we would end up having a problem. So something to think about as far as this device goes. And like I said, on a civilian market, this thing's probably going to be out, I would say probably by the end of the year. And I really like this setup. I like the button design. It's very simplistic. If I got to get to my battery, I just pop this off real quick, throw this on. Luckily, the NGAL, if you leave it off, doesn't seem to be burning batteries. So I think it's a great combination and a great setup. The next thing we're going to talk about is the GBRS mount. Currently on this gun, I've got a GBRS mount. And with the NGAL, because of the way this the tail is, it makes for a little bit bigger pain in the butt, meaning it's not a crane rear end to it. Well, right now I'm running a wire, and as you can see this cord come up here, right in here. I don't really like that here. I wish it ran the rail as far as it possibly could and then went vertical. So I tried the Axon button on this particular setup. I talked to the team about it, and they were already on top of it. With the GBRS mount, because of where the Axon button is, the wires are up forward, which means they have to come around that particular housing, which eats up about 2 inches. So in the future, I'm being told that they'll have kind of 2 options. One will have a little bit longer laser cord. It doesn't need a longer light cord. It just needs a longer laser cord if you're running this GBRS mount right here, the Hydra. As far as the other setup that you saw a second ago, that is a perfect setup. The wires don't need to be any longer. They're perfect the way they are. They give you a lot of flexibility, both the light and laser button. But if you're running this style on a GBRS mount, you're gonna wanna wait and get the longer laser wire. It'll all be built in as one. I'm not really sure how much you're gonna be able to see at home, but right now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fire off my laser button, but I'm actually on IR. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna hit the white light button, and you're gonna see that visible laser. Hopefully you can see the vis laser, and you can see the white light come on, running it on a wood door over here, and then back on the target. So again, a lot of flexibility in regards to that. Obviously I can manually come over here and control it. And like I was talking about with the other mounts, where if you hit that button, it's still on IR on. Well, one thing that I could do is I can obviously cap it as I make my approach and still leave it on IR and not worry about it, or I could turn it and actually put it on a viz mode. So it's not like my hands are tied. This is just really nice because it's less thinking in my opinion, more intuitive, and it lets me spend more time dealing with all the other chaos that's about to start instead of putting things over, turning buttons back down, and making sure that I'm as safe as possible. So I think this is a great option from the guys over at Unity Tactical.